Welcome, everyone, to Generation Dan. I was the one who ate the pie in the refrigerator. Me. I don't even work where you work, but somehow I snuck in there. I took Jenny's pie that said Jenny on the thing, but it's my fault.
Jenny
Sorry.
be damned. That's
Jenny
fair.
be damned. Welcome
Listen,
to the comedy show about generational differences. I'm your millennial. Who else is with me?
I am your old fuddy-duddy, Dino the Genetic Marvel. Yeah, I thought we would talk about jobs. So you started a new job earlier this year.
Yeah,
in as August. A teacher in August. That's still this year.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
I still think a new job is a new job until you've cracked a year. That's my mental perspective on that.
All right, that's fair.
And then, like, for myself, so I as everyone saw in October, I worked at Halloween Village, which was definitely one of the most exciting things I've ever done, because I got to make people pee and poo themselves actively and refer to children as sandwiches, which is hilarious. And I was like, I missed my calling. I should have been a murderer. There's no question. Like,
sorry to interrupt you, but like,
yeah, go ahead.
I literally called one of my classes like, all right, you sandwiches, like, because I started doing a thing where at the beginning of the day, I kind of play up the I'm still being caffeinated, everyone shut the fuck up angle. Yeah. So I've been calling them different groups of things just as a joke, and it's like an improv exercise for myself. Like,
it's definitely it's one of those things where I definitely think that Lunch Mob Garage. Did someone say sandwich there? What's up, brother?
To like high tea with both, like mine and her mom, my sister, and then her sister-in-law. They all went to like a little tea thing because my Katie didn't want to invite the moms to her bachelorette party because there are going to be, and I quote, dicks everywhere. So,
really?
Yeah. So I get it. That makes sense.
Listen, not much, brother. I'm living the dream here. No, see, this is the thing, is that I've always wondered about that with regards to bachelor party and bachelorette party, is that people are like, oh, you should invite your new father-in-law or whatever. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like, maybe to like a dinner and then skedaddle. No, thank you.
So I think so that's kind of what the purpose of that was absolutely. To do that. So she brought me back all the little like tea sandwiches, little triangle ones, delicious, so good.
Considering that Victoria is from the UK, every time we go back, we do try and have afternoon tea, and I like it because they will serve everything with very small cutlery, and then the sandwiches are tiny, and I'm like, I feel like a giant. This is so much fun, because that's just one of those things. Oh yeah. You get pop-in-law, BJ. Can you imagine where you're like, you take your father-in-law to a strip club and he's like, all right, and they all know him? Oh God.
I mean, the annoying part is that Katie was like, no strippers. Now, granted, I don't want them because what's the point? Like,
titties. That's the point.
But I can get exactly what I want on the internet already. And you can't touch them, and you can't masturbate, and it's like, what's the point?
I am thinking you need to get out more and push those boundaries, sir.
There is a difference between a stripper and a prostitute.
Is there? Come on.
And he knew the ladies there by name and how their kids were.
Can you imagine if you brought your father-in-law to a strip club and he knew the ladies there by name and how their kids? Oh, 100. That's exactly how I assumed that would go down, right? Like there's no way it could go well.
So far as I can tell, my bachelor party is being planned by my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, and my future brother-in-law, Katie's brother. They are both type A type people, and they're like vying for control over this thing. The only thing I know is that a batting cage is involved at some point, which is good. I like that.
Sure. People never know. Okay, so I have an example of this. This bothered the shit out of me, was that someone who came to my bachelor party, and didn't come to all the stuff, but they came. They went through a divorce, and we're still friends with the wife. However, the wife immediately, that guy was like, oh, he did this and this and this at his bachelor party, and I'm like, bro, how dare you? Like, I will stab you. Like, and I'm like, I have zero respect for you. You broke the guy code over everything else just to try and stick it to your soon-to-be ex-wife, which he's a loser, but that's fine.
Mhm.
That's why I'm like, bro, you never. Anyone who brings out a camera at a bachelor party and it's not like
Just don't.
during dinner, yeah, you're a piece of garbage. That's sheep.
Or like you get one, like, here's all the dudes I had my bachelor party with
Sure.
outside the building,
And
like baseball team style, hands on the shoulders.
Uh-huh.
That's it. That's all you get. Nothing else.
anything more than that, you're a piece of crap. Oh, how dare you? There's no evidence whatsoever. Yeah. So, like, listen, just make sure for your bachelor party, have as much fun as you possibly can, but also have one person that's in charge of you, just to make sure you don't die. That is important. That's an important thing. Or like you don't become homeless in the process. Well, all those things. Those are
So
important.
far as I can tell, that's Katie's brother.
That's fine.
I don't know. All I know is that a batting cage is somewhere in there, and I was like, I was able
That'd
to
be a good
get
time.
just, like, one little modicum of information. The rest is like, I'm not telling you anything else. So
Perfect.
we'll
That's a good
find
time. Listen, we went to a shooting range to
Cool.
start off. We did all sorts of things. Let me see. What is this? FML. 5 years later, your buddy walks up to you, slaps you on the back, and says, "Hey." He wishes. He tried to say hi to me, and I was like, "No, I'm not talking to you. You're a piece of crap." I'm okay. We're talking about jobs today, everyone. We got completely sidetracked because of the excitement of bachelor parties, and
As is the nature of the show.
Is the nature of the show.
We're like 125 episodes in. If you haven't like been like, oh, they almost never stay on topic.
You haven't watched enough.
Why?
You haven't watched enough.
Yeah, you haven't watched the show, or just don't enjoy. Come on the ride with us.
You don't enjoy laughing. How dare you? That's
anyway.
So, okay. Do you have to be friendly with your coworkers?
You have to be cordial.
I think that's fair. But you don't have to be a grinning idiot. I feel that is reasonable.
I was
absolutely
eked out as the grumpy guy.
Yeah.
Almost immediately when I got hired. Now, that has come in handy because I almost never get asked to do anything. Like things that I'll participate in are done when it's put out and they don't ask me directly. If I get asked directly, I almost never do it with a smile on my face. Example, right before Thanksgiving break, we had a potluck. They didn't say, "Hey, Mr. Novak, we're doing a potluck. Do you want to join?" It's, here's a big binder in the office as you go in to like sign in for the day.
Yeah.
There's a thing. Do you want to nobody pushed me.
No pressure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did it because that seems fun.
That's nice.
At the same time, earlier this week, a bunch of students were walking around going, "Hey, you want to do Secret Santa?" And I was like, I don't at all.
Absolutely
not just because you asked me, but also like,
okay, in general,
it's just $25 gift cards going from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, I didn't grow up with you. I'm not married to you. I'm not friends with you guys outside of work.
So that's the thing, is that when you like, I have a hard time with this because people are like, every time you start a new job, new group of friends, new whatever, you can reinvent yourself. I have a hard problem with this because I think that's ridiculous. How do you not know who you are? It seems insane. Now,
how does your real self not come out eventually? Like, you try and be like the go-getter, and then the laziness comes out eventually, or whatever. Like,
I tried to introduce myself with Constantine once, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack within 10 minutes. And I was like, I can't. It's just not going to do it.
And they're like, "Hey, Constantine, it's Dino."
I'm like, yeah, let's just stop that right there. Yeah, I'm like, because I know I just don't respond. And I'm like, like I give the example where I'm like, if you're in a mall, okay, malls used to be a big thing when I was younger. Now they're dead, but yeah. So if you went into a mall and someone's like, Dino, it's me. They're looking for me. 100% of the time they're looking at me because it's just not a often used name. But in Greece, if someone says Dino, like 5 guys will turn around and go, yes, because it is a common name.
It's like Greek Michael. There's like way too fucking many of them, right?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
not even too. Well, that's the thing is because in Greek it's Constantino, so a lot of guys will go by Costa, Constantino, or Dino. So it's kind of I worry that it might be like guys named Andrew going by Drew, which I'm like, you're a loser. But at the same time, it's just how I grew up.
Well,
So,
because there's Andrew, Andy,
yeah,
or Drew. Like you have the three parts of the name that you
right.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, my frustration is when people are like, oh, my name's Andrew, you can call me Drew, and I'm like, why can't I just call your name? Like, I am only
any Andrews call themselves and.
Yeah, well, listen, that would
Dude,
be
Victoria's on fire today.
She is. She's having a good day. She got jewelry. She made a ring too. So just before we started, guys, Victoria and I went to a ring making class, and then so you sculpt your own wax ring molding. And the problem was, so my wedding band, which is this ring, is size 14. So since I've lost the weight, it didn't really fit on my wedding band finger, so I put it on my index finger. But we've got one ring which now kind of is too big. It was kind of jostling around, so I made a new wedding band, and it actually turned out really great. So she went and picked them up today, and so she got bling today. She's like, she's all hopped up on jewelry. I
would watch like a short or like read a short story where you're a comedian but you can only crush after you like make a big purchase. So like you gotta like get something that like gives you the retail therapy feeling, and then
I feel like there are variations of that throughout life, like doing comedy where like you have to, like, for me, I'm like, I try not to talk to people, because if I have a conversation, I'll try and be funny, and it kind of like saps all my funny juices out, and then I'm like, when I try to be funny again, and I'm like, I have to start over again instead of continuing from the thing I did.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's the like I don't check my phone messages leading up to a show, because then what if bad news happens, and then I gotta go on stage and be like, hey guy, like it just doesn't. No.
Well, listen, that's that thing where you're like, when I'm trying to focus on something, I will put my phone down. Like, my phone is on silent, not even vibrate, for most of the day, right? Unless like Victoria is coming home from work or something, I'll leave it on loud, just because she might message me if something happens with the car, or she's like, hey, can you help me bring stuff in, whatever, like that, right? But in general, it's on silent, and I'm like, and I will completely ignore it until I have a break or whatever, and then I'll check all my messages, respond to everything, and then put it away again. And that's the thing, is like, people are like, oh, I called you. I'm like, yeah, I'm at work, my phone's on silent. They're like, oh, but we were like at work, they were trying to call me. I'm like, find me. I'm not. Don't call my phone.
Or even worse, I texted you, why didn't you answer? I'm like, because that's how text messages work. You answer when you're able to. That drives me nuts. Listen, if you need something immediately, call me.
Sure, but also don't call me. Gross.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
The sort of thing where it's like, hey, can you help me bring the groceries now, or whatever the thing is, like.
Yeah.
If I'm on the can or something.
It's one of those things where, like, the idea of communication is important in general, but like, people will text me and it's not a question, so I just won't respond. And then they're like, why didn't you respond? And I'm like, with what? You didn't ask a question. And then they get so angry, and I'm like, communicate better. Eat shit.
The reactions have been my best friend, like the little react emojis.
Oh, yeah.
So nice, because most of the time it's like, I sent a meme, you're like, cool, laughing emoji, and then there's no pressure to reply with something. You can just be like,
there's people are too hyped up on the idea that they need the interaction. You're like, no, I don't owe you anything, and that's one of those things where it always aggravates me, because people are just like, oh, do you want to do this? And I'm like, no, I don't. So this past couple days at work, this is why I wanted to talk about jobs, was that up until yesterday, actually the day before, we were setting up for this event. It's check it out. It's Holiday Night of Lights. It's very beautiful. It's in the Toronto area, so if you're in there, check it out. It's
I'm still calling cool. Children sandwiches. It's going to be a great time.
Well, that's the weird thing, is that so as we were transitioning from setup to actual event, I'm like, hey, so if you want me to be working, I have one set of clothes. However, if I'm going to be staff, it's going to be a different set of clothes. And if I'm dressing like staff, like I'm dressed because I'm like it's outside, so I'm wearing like super thermal stuff. I physically like number one, the clothing is actually quite expensive. So I'm like, I don't want to sweat in it. I don't want to be moving trees and stuff. That's not on the table, right? So I'm like, you guys tell me what you want. And they're like, no, dress for staff. I'm like, okay. Because the clothing that I have, and I'm like, I'm good into like -25 weather, and I'm like toasty warm. It's wonderful.
Mm.
But then I get there and they're like, hey, can you move this stuff? And I'm like, no, I can't. And they're like, oh, why not? I'm like, sorry, I'm not dressed for that. Not going to happen. I'm here as staff, so I can do little things. So I was like hanging Christmas lights, hanging ornaments. I'm like, that's no problem. Absolutely. Happy to help out. I did get covered in glitter, but I'm like, that's okay. So,
Well,
which I'm like, apparently I'm a stripper now. That's fine.
roughly, what's the temperature in Toronto right now?
Right now it's floating around 0. With the wind chill, it's freezing.
Okay, so
But
like literally freezing, like water freezing. Okay. In California, it's been roughly in the mornings, it's like mid 40s, so in Fahrenheit.
Cool.
So,
yeah. So it's like 8 degrees.
I think so.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Is roughly like 4 to 5 to 6 degrees Celsius.
Right.
And then by the afternoon, it's like mid to high 50s to low 60s, which, yeah. So definitely, like, finally, that green sweater that I'm always wearing
comes in handy.
The correct outfit for what's going on. Like, it was so cold on Friday, I actually had to wear a hat to work, which was interesting. Now, again, for you, this is probably like pansy, right?
No.
But it's just nice to have that kind of weather. I know
it's nice to feel layers are when you can. Okay, so now that I'm small, I'm like, I have to layer, and I'm like, oh, this is so good. It's so, you feel so nestled. It's nice. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, it's nestled. It's the option to, like, assuming do you have like a break room or something like that, like a break area?
Yeah.
Like, if you have to, you can take off the outer jacket, hat, whatever, put it on a chair, and then use it for, be in your t-shirt or long sleeve shirt, whatever you're wearing, until it's needed to put the thing back on.
Exactly.
Compared to just being fat, like it's just like it's not fun.
That was so, like, I was doing stuff and I got a little bit heated, and I'm like, okay, so the jacket that I have, which is like super puffy and like very, very like waterproof and all that kind of stuff, it has straps built into it, so you can wear it like a backpack kind of thing.
I'm thinking of the Gore-Tex jacket that you see George in on Seinfeld, right? Big
Not
puffy.
Not as shiny, but
shiny.
So yeah,
it's Gore-Tex.
It's Gore-Tex. And I do hit stuff as I'm walking by, but I'm like,
so much better.
So, like I was taking went out for a smoke, and I'm like, I took the jacket off and then just put it with the shoulder straps, and people were like, how is that? Does it have? I'm like, yeah, it does. It's very, very convenient. It's very easy to wear on. But I'm also like, I have snow pants on, which Victoria bought them for me last year when I started to lose weight, so now they fit quite well. But I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, it's great having snow pants. You feel so, able to be comfortable. Even like I came home, I took them off, and I'm like, my legs were hot. I was like, wow, it's fantastic.
I think it was a Second City sketch where, like, this is over 10 years ago. They did a like Lady Gaga's Christmas album, and like instead of Just Dance, it's Snow Pants.
Hey man, I've been enjoying it thoroughly, but at the same time, it's like I try and smile at children and stuff, and then they see me because I'm wearing black snow pants, black boots, the black puffer jacket, and like you just see my face, and I'm like, I have a toque on as well, so it's like from here, you see from here like to here, and people I'm like, hello, and they're like, and I'm like, I'm very big and scary. I like it.
Hi, I'm Dino, the genetic ninja. Nice to meet you.
Definitely. I am the winter rated ninja version. Thank you. You have to pay extra. You have to a limited time offer. You get the Arctic Ninja.
Arctic Ninja.
Yeah. No, it's good.
So this week at my job as a teacher, I gave my English classes. So this is the core class, this is the thing that they have that matters on their
Yeah.
report card
Right.
compared to the elective, which is like, live
Yeah.
out of there with the C, you're fine.
You just yeah.
So I gave them their final this week. Now they have 2 more weeks after this before winter break.
Okay.
Normally, the other teachers give them their finals this coming week at the time we're recording this,
Yeah.
like the week of December 4th.
Okay.
I did it a week early for 2 reasons. The main one was that I was a terrible test taker as a kid.
Fair.
Were you? Or how did you do with tests in school?
It really came down to preparation. If I was like I don't get frazzled by an exam or anything like that. It's more so just being able to communicate and do that kind of stuff. Like it if I'm prepared, there's nothing you can do. I'll be fine, right? But like my bigger thing with English was there were a lot of teachers who didn't because I was good at public speaking, not good at writing.
Okay.
So I've gotten better at writing. So they would be like, whatever Dino hands in, he gets a 60. And I'm like, why? You didn't even read it, you assholes. So
I had this problem where like I would sit down, like no matter how ready I was, I would sit down, and normally when people have test anxiety, it's like, oh, it poof, all the knowledge disappeared. For me, it was more like a bathtub. So it would just kind of slowly drain out of my brain over the course of the test. So I was either the first one to get it in because I get it all down on the paper and like, here's your thing, I'm out of here. Or I'd be the last one because I'd be sitting there doing number 22. What the fuck is it? Damn it! I knew what this was going in.
What is okay? So hold on. What is your final? What is it? Paper that they have to do for English? Is that
so? It is an in-class essay, and the reason for that was mostly to get around ChatGPT because you can't use AI if I'm watching you write it and I'm standing right there in front of you.
Right. With a pen and paper, I'm assuming. Typing. Fair enough.
Yeah. They log into the website we use for putting up assignments and stuff, and there's like a timer that counts down.
Nice.
Over the course of the class, they come in. You have 100 minutes. Go nuts. I gave them the prompts 2 weeks in advance, so they could go through their books and like look up quotes and stuff. And during the class periods leading up to the test, we were looking at like how to cite quotes, how to use quotes to your advantage and stuff. Because like when you're writing a paper for an English class, quotes will take up like a third of what you're saying. Like it's great for like page counts and stuff like that. I did all of that, and A, to get around like AI and cheating and stuff like that, and B, because for the people who have test anxiety, that's one less test that they got to deal with. Their final for English is over. I got 2 weeks left of stuff I got to do, which is mostly just going to be like, I don't know, the district's really into media literacy, so probably going to be just doing that for the rest of the term.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And I don't know, people are like giving me the weird side eye, A, for the in-class essay, and B, for doing it a week early.
Why? Just because they're like, why are you doing it so early?
Yeah. I give my reasons,
Yeah, be like, listen, I see, it comes back to like, be the change you want to see, right? So for yourself, where that component will cause anxiety, and that anxiety will reverberate through everything you do, that is a huge thing. And especially when you're talking about high school, where, let's be honest, it's ridiculous, but that is a cornerstone of how your future will play out. Right? If you get good grades in high school, that you have a better chance of getting into a better university, but also you're developing better communication habits, studying habits, learning habits. All those things are factored in. So to have somebody who's like, hey, I want you to learn, and that's going to be hard, but you shouldn't be anxious. So I'm doing it this way to make it to alleviate that point of pressure because it's possible. That's fantastic. And if anyone who has a problem with that, you're like, yeah, that's because you're a dick.
And like the reason for the essay too is like just doing like a regular test. Like a lot of kids got mad at me about having to be an essay because they're like, why couldn't it just be a test that I can study for? And I was like, because you're not learning you're not taking in the lessons of the book and trying to understand the book on a deeper level. Because if you come in and it's like, what chapter in chapter 17? What was the name of the record that Holden bought? Like, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You don't learn anything compared to
No.
like you have to go. Like here, the 3 prompts were boiled down. The first one was like talking about Holden's privilege, and especially where the school is 98% people of color.
Right.
Like a lot of people latched onto that one. Second one was he goes to like an old teacher of his apartments to have like a conversation, and the teacher's like, "Hey man, if you keep being a dick, it's gonna like you're gonna keep spiraling."
Yeah.
But at the end, he like drunkenly strokes his cheek and then he freaks out and leaves. So it was like analyzing that
Sure.
interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the third one was about like he judges people so much. Do you think he was right in judging people? Like that's so like 3 different prompts with 3 different things you could get out of the book. Like the second one is for the lazy kids who don't want to look at the rest of the book. They're like, that just happens within 2 chapters.
Sure. See, but that gives them the opportunity, because I like, for me, I always found that, especially when I wanted to write something or give a talk about something, I would, like, a week in advance, I would read all the source material, then close it, put it away, and just let my subconscious stew. And then like 2 or 3 days before I had to present, I would open everything back up and say, okay, what do I think about this? And I would type it all out, go through it, and then usually I would just have highlighted specific keywords so I can maintain eye contact, and off I went. But like, that's the thing, is like, when I write something out, I write it as if I'm publicly speaking, right? So it doesn't, I write in speak instead of,
you have a strong voice. I tend to do that too.
Yeah.
And then especially where like, as I was coming out of high school, I was getting into stand-up.
Yeah.
So a lot of that just kind of
absolutely
congealed into a jello blob of the way I write, which is also making it really hard to write this pilot, because all the characters are sounding like each other, and I'm trying to like differentiate them.
That's a hard thing. Just so everyone knows on that point, we are trying. Well, Atlas had a magnificent idea, and he has enlisted me and Cole to assist him as slave labor, which I am totally okay with. And but yeah, so trying to write something, it's very exciting. The worst part was Atlas is like, hey, you guys have access as editors, you can write stuff too. And I'm like, I'm more of an idea story kind of guy. But at the same time, yeah, see, I have that habit where I'm like, so even now, like talking about jobs, is that, so I've been doing this physical stuff, which I'm like, I'm enjoying thoroughly. At the same time, people are like looking at me and they're like, how did you move that? I'm like, with my hands. And they're like, that's for like 3 people. And I'm like, I'm big, no big deal. And then in turn,
good feeling.
Well, that's the funny thing is then, but then you have people who are ridiculous, and they're like, well, you're tough, you can do it. And I'm like, no, you can't assign me extra work because you think I can take it. You're like, I can do more work because I know I can do it. Those are 2 different things. Like, you don't pay me to be a beast of burden. I just enjoy being a beast of burden. There's 2 different things, right? So when people are like, oh, you're strong,
it boils down to, don't ask me to do it, just kind of float it, and then I'll decide to do it on my own.
If you try and force me to do more than other people are doing, I have a problem with that, right? Because that, now you're not treating me the same as everyone else, and that's not okay, right? It's the same thing. I'm like, listen, like, I'm tall, so can you do that thing that's way up high? Okay, but are you asking short people to do the things down low? No. So figure it out, right? Like, that's that. And I'm like, listen, I can do things because I'm amazing. You don't have the right to ask me that. You don't pay me enough to be a wizard. I'm a wizard on my own personal time. Thank you very much. So in the same sense is that, no, it's just, right? So in the same sense now is that, so I, having lost all the weight and stuff, right? I've been putting together kind of a Cole's notes of how to do it. I did the show, Where'd the Rest of Me Go, which was a 30-day series on my YouTube channel, if everyone hasn't subscribed. But, and I went through like how I did it and everything, and like kind of what I learned through the process, and what I found out and how it affected me and how that can help other people. But now, so earlier this year, a friend of mine got married, and I helped him lose like 30 pounds for his wedding. So he's a guy. He actually does dragon boat races. So he's like actually a fit guy.
Dragon Ball Z, what?
Dragon boat.
What's
Also,
a
he's
dragon boat?
single file, and like you row all in sequence, and there's like a drummer sometimes on the back, like keeping pace for everybody. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like a real thing.
Like
Yeah.
rowing crew. That's what I always.
Yeah, but so it's dragon boat. If you look up dragon boat, you'll see it, and you're like, ah, cool. So,
okay.
He's very, very fit and everything. So he does rowing and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, why don't you try this stuff? And he's like, no, I can't do it. I'm like, I think you can. And even like I like to challenge people and go, oh, are you saying I'm better than you? And they're like, yes. I'm like, why do you have to be such a dick? Just try it, you know? And sure enough, he lost the 30 pounds that like he's been trying to lose, that like get in better shape specifically for just life in general. Cause he's like, cause he's a shorter guy. So he's been trying to do that. So now another person through a comedian was like, hey, he started commenting on all my stuff. I'm like, hey man, what's up? And he's like, so do you have any advice? Cause I'm trying to lose weight and everything. I'm like, sure. I'm like, here, this is my videos. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. So I've been going back and forth with him, and I'm like, I'm kind of good at coaching people on kind of I it's more so like when they've had enough is enough and they're ready for that hard conversation, and I'm like, enter me. And I'm like, and I just stand there and go, hey, this is what I did, maybe it'll help you. And sure enough, it's been actually going really well. And I'm kind of like, you see, I'm like, I don't know how that's a job though. That's just me being friendly and trying to help people, which I'm like, I'm all for, but I don't see it possible as like, I'm good at it because I'm good at speaking, I'm good at talking, I'm good at changing people's perspective. But I'm like, I don't know that I could do that for work. Right?
I don't know. I mean, like, okay, so I'm like roughly half a year into teaching.
Yeah.
August, September, October, November, and then here we are in December.
And he has so far not murdered one child.
So far, I mean, that's because I have the seniors for most of it, and they're like, for the most part, like, hey, we're just trying not to like get in trouble before we leave here. I'm like, all right,
if you can do it, yeah, I'm sure I can.
But I could definitely see myself like whether it's with kids or just older people, like teaching stuff.
Yeah,
is nice.
Let's cut the bullshit, Atlas. You want to be a professor just so you can have leather patches on your elbows all year round. Don't lie to me.
No, Hawkins, if you're listening to this, I don't want to do that.
He does. He definitely does. No question.
Okay, Katie was watching Sex and the City last night. I like it. I'm sorry. It's kind of a good show.
Yeah.
But there's like an episode where she has to like teach how to meet men class at the Learning Annex. And
just to be clear, my was not it being a good show. It was me accepting your apology for watching it. But go on. Yes.
Okay. Shut up.
Just be very clear.
Anyway, so she has to like teach a class at the Learning Annex about like how to meet men. And originally she kind of phones it in, and all like everybody hates her after that. And originally she's gonna just be like, I'm not doing this, and then decides to like, why don't I just try? And not necessarily do it the way the Learning Annex wants her to, but for the 6 people who are left, because everyone else left, she's like, okay, ladies, come with me. And then they go to a bar, and then she just kind of like coaches people how to meet men, and like it works for her. And
sure,
I don't know. I just thought it was a nice moment.
See, but I feel like that. Like there are a lot of people who like, oh, I'm a professional coach, and I'm like, you sound like a douchebag, right?
Not like that.
Like, yeah, I don't like that. I'm like, I'd rather like the idea of, hey, I know something, let's share information like that. I like that idea of it, and I'm like, listen, I can be me, I can't be you. Only you can be you, right? I can pretend to be you, maybe, but I'm like, you can't pretend to be me, that because I am a ridiculous person. There's no way people could pull that off. So it's like, it's one of those things where you're like, hey, I could just tell you what I learned, but you have to still interpret that for yourself and extrapolate how it figures with you. Because I'm like, it's not,
and like even just like working with you and Cole, and I know it's like you guys are just people I'm bouncing ideas off of.
Yeah.
For this pilot, I just really like having that group dynamic. That's
what's
really
up, John?
Nice. And they
How's it going,
try
buddy?
and like funky old John, yeah. And like they try and force that at my work. They're like, all right,
Yeah.
professional development days, which is like staff meeting,
Yeah.
more or less. And they're like, get you guys together and work. And it's like, I just spent the entire day teaching. That's the last thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I want
Absolutely.
food. I'm hungry.
Yep.
Let me go home so I
The,
can do
that's
this.
and that's why, like, look, when you're at a job, it's like how, like, you do have to be cordial with people. I think that's being polite is important, but it's like so I got talked to about making people feel small, and I was like, I'm 6'2", 6'3", and 270 pounds. Everyone feels small around me, so I don't understand that. But it came down to people were feeling emotionally small because I'm like, don't do that. That's a horrible idea. We could do it this way, you know. And it was very much people are like, oh, why do you insult us? And I'm like, I'm not insulting you. You just have a bad idea, and I'm fixing it. That's all I'm doing. And I'm like, I'm told not to do that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm just not going to give ideas. But then it's like, oh, we're a team, and I'm like, we're not. That's not how that works. I'm like, I'm general labor, and I'm just going to work. That's what I'm going to do, right? So it feels weird in that, and then people are like, oh, we're gonna have staff meeting. Everybody can hang out and chit chat, and you're like, gross. I don't like doing that with anyone. Why are you making me do that, right? That's why I'm like, I don't think you don't have to be friendly. You just have to be cordial and polite, and that's it. You don't have to be best friends with everyone you work with, which
Yeah,
is absolutely
exactly.
ridiculous.
Well, like the only people I can see myself hanging out with
Yeah.
are the nobody listens to the show anyway. The two people who I can see myself hanging out with is the person that sat down next to me during the orientation, and we
Yeah.
happen to be neighbors, like classroom wise,
Yeah.
and one particular teacher who teaches a different subject than me,
Yeah.
and we like just kind of vibed out.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of it for the most part. It's just like, hey, what's up? Like, it's not.
Sure.
Uh, it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
best friends forever. Not everyone is the office where you're getting involved in each other's lives or whatever.
Yeah, that's a little much. It's asking a little much. And I find like there are some people, I think I find this in every workplace I've been. There are some people who are all like, we're all best friends. And you're like, calm down.
This
Just
is
relax.
the this is the biggest red flag. If you're in a job interview and they say we're like a family here, turn
Nope.
and run as fast as you can.
Immediately. Immediately. Look, we're like a family, turn and run. It's those that's up there with I know what I'm doing. They don't know what they're doing. I got this. They don't got this. And you can trust me. Don't trust that person.
And I'll take care of it.
Oh,
I'll
I'll
take
take care
care
of
of
it.
it. Yeah, they're not gonna. No.
100% don't do that. Just like that's the funny thing is, and I've tried to really implement this in my personal life where I'm like, people will be like, hey, do you know about this? And I'm like, I don't know. So I may have previous experience and a know-how, but I'm like, I don't know. Why? Because you haven't given me enough information, and I don't want to come across as being like, well, I know everything. No, that's not true. It's not. There's always something to learn, and even like, uh, uh, I was trying to because we have zip ties all over the place for the Halloween village that we've created, which is quite beautiful and everything, but everything like their ornaments zip tied together. This is zip tied, like, all sorts of stuff is zip tied. So some things that were cords were zip tied, and I was like, these cutters are like the cutter. It was like a pair of pliers, and the cutter was all the way on the inside. So I'm like, you couldn't get it in. She's like,
Mhm.
oh, sometimes it'll work if you just twist it a little bit. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I just don't want to damage anything, so I'm not going to do that. But I'm like, okay. So I just grabbed it and I just started twisting, and it broke apart. And I'm like, okay, it works. But I'm like, I can break it with my own two hands. I just don't want to damage other stuff. So I'm like, no problem. But they're like, oh, there's another way you can do that. Great, show me. I love learning new things, right? But it's weird that people are just like, I know what I'm doing, and you're like, okay, then why are you asking me? Just if you know what you're doing, why are you talking to me? That's just fair, you know. And then people get mad, and I'm like, why are you getting mad? There's no reason. You do not have a say in my like. The only thing I get mad about is when someone puts me in danger. Like I had a fence fall on me, and I was like, man, that's disappointing. But I'm like I actually bruised up my leg quite bad. But I'm just like, it actually, so it got me on the shoulder a little bit, and then
Oh.
on my calf, and I'm like, eh. And then I said,
Have you had the like the bruise is coming? Like it hurts like a bruise, but there's no blue
oh,
yellow yet, and you're
that
like,
so
where is it? Come on, I know it's coming.
on my shoulder. I was like, I thought it hit me on the shoulder, but maybe it didn't. 2 days later, it's now like that yellow, gross bruise color. But it hit me on the leg, and that swelled up immediately. And I was like, oh, that's gonna be a merc. But it's one of those things where I'm just like, okay, but I'm like, I don't really care. But I'm like, hey, we got to move that stuff because we're gonna trip over that. And they're like, what's the big deal? And I'm like, I'm sorry, is my safety not a big deal to you? Because it's a big deal to me. You know, that's the only thing where I'm like, no, absolutely not. I'm not okay with that. But it's just people just, oh, you're tough, you can handle it. Absolutely not okay. That's why it's when people feel too chummy, I feel that they try and be like, oh well, and you're like, just calm down, just relax. That's the whole idea. Yeah, we're like family. That means we're abusive. That is an abusive environment. We're not like family. Absolutely not. And people who try and force friendship, oh, the worst.
Yeah.
You're like, listen, I'm like, there are 3 levels of friends for me. Is there are people I know, which I'm like, I know who that person is, but I don't know them. Then there's an acquaintance, which is someone that I've had a conversation before. I may know something about them, like, oh, they're married, they have kids, whatever. They used to be an astronaut, whatever it is. But I'm like, or like I work with them. So I know a little bit about them, nothing, but I'm like, we don't hang out. And then friends. And friends, I'm like, oh, I would invite you out to a show, or we can have a conversation. We can talk about and share opinions or debate a certain topic. Those are people I consider friends. But I'm like, people are just so quick to jump to. I'm like, oh, let's hang out. And I'm like, I don't know you. Why am I going to use my personal time and ruin that with your association? I don't know anything about you. That's a absolutely ridiculous thing to request, right? But I find people are very eager for friendship, and they're just like, let's be friends. And you're like, yeah, we could just hang out. That's okay. Just take your time. No
Yeah.
problem.
No, ever since like even before the pandemic, this was a problem, but especially since the pandemic. Like, I'm not against making friends through work and like
Sure,
outside of work, but don't try and force it,
over time. It's not
Yeah.
immediate, and also too, like, what I do in my personal time is my personal business. And also too, if you're a friend, I trust that you won't take that information and then just go blabbing it to everyone that you know. Because sometimes I don't want that, right? So like for me, I have no problem telling people about comedy, and then I have a YouTube channel and I'm trying to get monetized, and I'm trying to, like, I would love to do this full time because I love talking on the internet and making fun of people. Those are fun experiences for me. But at the same time, like there are people who, like, I won't say certain jokes because I'm not comfortable with that. Because in my opinion, if I've said it, people can record it, it can be shared, and I'm like, so I will you like I'll call people retards because that's just who I am. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm hesitant to do other stuff where people are like, oh, you could talk about this and that. And I'm like, that's not for me, right? Because I'm like, I know that once it's out of your mouth, people could just interpret it any way they want, right? So I'd rather talk about myself and my experiences and share that because I think that's hilarious, right? But in turn, people were like, look, that's one of the things. Is like, oh, I went and I had a few drinks after work, and someone's like, oh, they drank a lot, and I'm like, number one, I'm the size of 2 people, so I can do whatever I want. Number two, who are you judging? Piece of garbage.
I gotta write that down as like a quote or something. That's
What?
Okay, so like for this pilot that I'm working on,
yeah,
I have like just a general ideas section. Where are we at here? A lot of people have cats as pets. I'm the size of 2 people. I can do whatever I want.
That's just science.
I don't know who I would like give it to.
It doesn't matter.
It's just such a good line that.
But like that's the weird thing. Like, so I've introduced myself doing comedy now, and I'm like, I used to be the size of 2 fat people. Now I'm just 1 fat person. But at the same time, I'm 270 pounds. I'm like, okay, split it down the middle. I'm like, I am the size of 2 small men easily. Like I could be 2 men in a trench coat, no problem. If they're very stocky, short men, I could be 2 short, stocky men because I'm very wide. But it's one of those things.
You're tall. You'll find.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever seen the? Do you remember? There's like a Family Guy cutaway where Stewie imagines what it would like if he owned a big, like if he was big, and then it's just like an ad for a big and tall shop. Like
No.
it's just like weirdly pure for what it is. And he's like, if you're portally or tall, you'll find a lovely atmosphere brimming with service. Like it's just completely played straight, and it cracks me up.
Bro, Stewie's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's
No, this is like early season Stewie where he's still trying to get the lowest and shit. And it's just like the cut from him to be like, what it would be like if I was big, and then you're imagining like a giant robot suit, and then it's just a big and tall shop.
See, that's the ridiculousness of like I like walking around. So especially like where I'm working is right next to a big shopping mall, which I'm like I haven't really been in a mall since the pandemic, like passing, not much, right?
Yeah.
And now I would walk through there every day to go get lunch because they have a food court. And sure enough, I'm like, I see people who are like 4'11", and I'm like, how do you exist? Like that is just I just look at them like, are you real? Are you a real person?
What? They're 2 inches above not needing a booster seat.
No,
4'9" is the magic number.
They definitely need a booster seat. It's ridiculous. And I'm like, I don't understand how you function in society, because there's like pushing a grocery cart like this, and I'm just like, what is that? How is that possible? It's just very perturbed.
I don't know.
I just look at him like,
there is a very real possibility if I have kids with Katie, our kids are going to be short. That could be a thing. Like my mom's family and my dad's family were both tall, so they.
Why is Katie's family all short?
Kinda like.
How tall is Katie?
She's 5'1". She's really short. And then
yeah, but that's not too short.
Yeah, Katie's like 5'1". Her mom is like 5'3". Her dad's 5'9". Her brother is like the outlier. He's like 5'10", 5'11". Her other brother's about 5'9", and then that's all I know for like the core unit. Meanwhile, my family, dad's 6 feet.
Yeah,
I'm 6 feet. Sister is 5'5".
Yeah.
Mom's 5'5", although now closer to 5'3", like as she's getting older. And then and like that's kind of it. Like it's like my mom is the shortest of her sisters. Like her sister's like 5'7", 5'8", 5'9". Like
what if you have like giant kids? That's always weird.
Maybe exactly. So you have me, and then you have Katie's, which like there's a I don't know what the dominant gene is.
So my sister is like 5'4" or 5'5". She's around the same height as my mom, right? Mm-hmm. But I have one brother who's 5'6". Then I have one brother's 5'9", another one's 5'8.5". He's the one who passed away. And then I'm like 6'3". 6'2", 6'3". I think
you're the big guy.
It's hilarious because I would go with my dad to like visiting other businesses and stuff, like when he was doing stuff, and they're like, who's
your cohort here?
Yeah. And my dad would be like, oh, it's my security. And they're like, oh, Bill, this is a secure facility. And he's like, no, it's my son. They're like, that's your son? And he's like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Even my mom would introduce me. She's like, oh, this is my baby. Would you think that I could make a baby like this? And I'm like, I am a 40-year-old man, Mom.
And my mom, like, she says, like, oh, our ancestry, like, her ancestry is all, like, British, Irish, Scottish. I'm like, there is definitely some Viking expansion shit.
100%.
Like, if we're all this tall, like, we're all big and, broad shoulders and stuff like that. On the road, say a quick hello. What's up, Alberto?
What's up, brother?
I know, sorry, very, very off track.
But it's one of those things. Listen, I'll tell you this right now: is if people are tall, don't treat them differently than you do the short people. Okay, just because they're tall doesn't mean they should do all the high stuff. Because you're not telling short people to all do stuff that's close to the floor.
Or just tell short people to do the short stuff, and then it's fine.
Oh, like, short people get really mad when you tell them that. I'll tell you that. They're all fiery, and you're like, you can't do anything, but still.
Yeah. Now, the only time that's allowed is if you're actively reaching for something. If you're like up on the high shelf and you're like, hey, can you get the thing from down there? And they're like, yeah, sure. Like that's the only time you can do that without people getting all up in the
Listen, just saying, people, if you want equality, that's how you do it. Treat everybody like their average height. An average size. This is just rude not doing it that way. I don't know. I'm definitely trying to think of what I want to do, like, because I love comedy, that's for sure, but at the same time it's horrible because people are the worst. And then at the same time it's like now I'm doing manual labor, which I'm like I'm pretty good at, but at the same time I'm old as shit, so I'm like, that's a young man's job,
Mhm.
right? Very weird. And I don't have a degree where I could be like, I'm gonna be a teacher like Atlas. So I'm just standing going,
That didn't even happen organically. That happened because my fiance was like, "Hey, you tell dick jokes to people. Why don't you not tell dick jokes, but like
tell
talk
these jokes to children. Yeah, that's a
no,
good
like
idea.
use the public speaking skills
Oh, definitely.
in front of kids." And I'm like, "Why not?" Like I didn't really have much
Yeah.
of a like idea of what to do next, and
There's no
it's
reason. There's no
yeah,
reason why. Like it's hilarious that people are like, oh, the hardest part of public speaking, the hardest part about a lot of jobs is the public speaking. And I'm like, public speaking is easy.
yeah.
I'm like, I could talk about nothing for
Mhm.
125 episodes, just so everyone knows. Okay.
I offered to like the creative writing class that I do as the other class is
Yeah.
only one semester, and then for the
Yeah.
second semester I was like, well, what am I doing? And they're like, so I offered, I'm like, if you want like a public speaking class, I can like do that.
I'm actually
um,
so I'm actually going to do a show on my YouTube channel about that.
mhm.
If you want to help out,
Oh
because
hell yeah.
realistically, because like it's just a good. I'm like I
It's a
want to
good
do it
skill.
like 10 to 15 minute episodes on a specific topic of how to master that technique, like eye contact and stuff like that. You're like, listen, eye contact is very important. A lot of people don't have it, but it's an important thing because what you're doing is you're trying to communicate with a specific person. When it's a
Mhm.
crowd of people, you pick certain areas and you look at them. Now, you don't have to necessarily bear into their soul,
Yeah,
but if you
look
look
like
in
over
this
the tops of the
vicinity,
heads. Yeah.
yeah, because
And then like
yeah,
there's that, and what I'm gonna be teaching is like a film study class, which is kind of awesome.
yeah,
Except now I'm in this like fight with the district. I'm like, I need you to unblock Netflix because I need to show movies.
oh,
And they're like, we don't want people watching Netflix. I'm like, it's for education. Like, come on, man. Like, I only have,
yeah,
like what 4 weeks to figure this out by the time we get back in for
yeah, yeah.
And also the fun part about the film study is that it also means that I can do a little bit of history in there.
I also listen,
Like
that I think is really important because the like what can you get away with though?
okay, so like
You can't do something like Saving Private Ryan, which is a fantastic film.
probably not, but like okay, so for example, Godzilla and the concept of kaiju as a
Sure.
way of Japan grappling with the A bomb as a
Yes.
concept. So after the A bomb dropped and the war ended, the U.S. occupied Japan for 9 years, and during those 9 years, they were not allowed to talk about what happened in the media at all. Couldn't talk about it in classrooms. It was like, don't just pretend it didn't happen because this is late 40s, early 50s American doctrine, right? Like,
Yeah.
shove it all down in there. Don't be a pansy.
Which
So
still works, just so people know. It's
shut up.
not healthy, but it does work. Yeah.
So when they left,
Yeah.
8 months after this happens, Godzilla comes out, and Godzilla is the personification of the A bomb. He is a monster that cannot be reasoned with. He cannot be defeated by normal means, and he just destroys everything in his wake. So it was a collective understanding and a collective digestion of what just happened to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So shit like that, like I can do
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
I've never even thought about it from that perspective, but that is a valid point. That is pretty wild. Look at you. You're so fancy and important. Jesus.
Anyway, so that's the kind of thing I'm gonna.
No, but that's a good, like, realistically, especially in a day and age where media is so readily available and promoted and integrated, especially in the state of California, into everything. It's something where you're like, hey, you should understand the underlying themes of these things, that it isn't always like, hey, Michael Bay explosions. That's not, no, that's
Yeah,
not a thing. That's not
yeah,
real.
like
Right?
themes in general are also something that I'm trying to like put into this pilot script too, where it's not just a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and like watching like a good part of it is inspired by Castle in the Sky, my Studio Ghibli
Yeah.
fans out there. So um, like all the Ghibli movies have like strong theming. Like
Huge.
you can pick out stuff in there. So like that hopefully is gonna be uh, shown through
Yeah.
as time goes on. But first, I have to finish a goddamn draft of this thing, and I'm only like one act and a half in. Like just go.
I am a firm believer that you have to, the more you try and push things like that is the harder they get. That's why you have to just know where you are, know where you want to go, and just let it happen. Because as soon as you try and push, you're like, you start making weird connections and people just get wonky and people are like, well, this is my story. You're like, okay, but if it doesn't make sense, it don't make sense, right? Yeah, and if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
And the whole thing with the death of the author is that like as soon as I'm done and someone is watching it, then I can't then show up after and be like, actually, what I was talking about was no. It's up to them to do that.
Yeah, well, and that's, I think that is an integral part of media, right? It's how people accept it, how people understand it. So if you do a good job, they will get it, right? Like they will understand those underlying theories. But if you don't elaborate, if you're not specific, if you don't really cultivate those ideas, then people are gonna go, ooh, and then just pick something at random, and then you're going, that's not what I meant, right?
But you know, people come from different experiences, and
no, false. Everyone has the same experience. Period.
It's the movie Logan's Run. We all have the same thing.
That's right. That's just how it is, people. Just so you know. But yeah, no, it's. I feel that we've just definitely. I think the important thing is that the amount of jobs that are, I think, made up at this point. Like yesterday, we had influencers coming in. I'm like, they're not real people. That's ridiculous.
Have you ever read the book Bullshit Jobs?
No.
Fantastic book, and I highly recommend reading it. What's the guy's name? It's like Mike something. Oh, Dave Graebner.
Dave, Mike, same thing. Yeah. It is. Yeah. So that, yeah, because there are so many ridiculous jobs that I'm like, I feel like I belong in a ridiculous job because I'm not a real person anymore. That's for sure. Right. I'm just some sort of character. So like having a made up job also seems ridiculous. Like apropos to my.
So here, I'll finish the episode off. Like, so he splits. He says that almost half of societal work is pointless. Both large parts of some jobs and 5 types of entirely pointless jobs. Flunkies, who serve to make their superiors feel important, like receptionists, administrative assistants, door attendants, greeters, stuff like that. Goons, who act to harm or deceive others on behalf of their employer or to prevent other goons from doing so. Lobbyists, corporate lawyers, telemarketers, public relations specialists. Duct tapers, who temporarily fix problems that could be fixed permanently, like programmers repairing shoddy code, airline desk staff who calm passengers whose bags do not arrive, stuff like that. Box tickers, who create the appearance that something useful is being done when it's not. Survey administrators, in-house magazine journalists, corporate compliance officers, and taskmasters, who create extra work for those who do not need it. Middle management and leadership professionals. So it's a good book. You should read it.
I should read that. I should read that. Maybe I'll find a new career. It'll be exciting. I tell jokes and then I'm a goon. I could definitely be a goon. Let's be honest. That seems totally. I want to be a goon from like the 50s though, where I can break people's legs and stuff like that. What's the point of being a gigantic person?
I feel like if your name is Dino, like you're already halfway there. Hey, Dino over here, the goon.
I'm Dino. I'm your goon. How you doing? That's fair. That's really easy.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Generation Dan. Go read Bullshit Jobs, and as the weeks go on, watch me complain more and more on the writing of this stupid pilot script. I'll probably on the channel share it somehow when it's done. Or
I was thinking we may do a reading, and
like a table read.
Yeah, and rope in a few other people and see if they can do it.
Okay.
I think it'll be fun. Yeah. It'll just because then it's like, hey, check out my pilot, and we just do a table read, right? Okay. Yeah, and that way we can actually promote it in that way. But anyways, it's very exciting. So, Atlas, what are you doing in the meantime that maybe people can watch you in real life or follow you and stalk you at home?
Stalk me at home. You can find me at Atlas Novak on Twitter, Instagram, all the Blue Sky threads, wherever the fuck. Novack, by the way. Apparently, people have been spelling Novack. And then you can also check out my other podcast at Nexus of Night. That's about a trading card game called Vanguard. If that's not your thing, completely understand. Also, check out the show at Generation Dan on all the social media platforms.
Yes.
How about you, good sir?
Dino the Genetic Marvel everywhere, and also too on Tuesdays at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. We are doing Hammered and Cheese, which we do every week with Mia and Cole Clayton, and that has been going well. Atlas was a guest. We have another guest in the next couple of weeks, but we're trying to do random recipes that make life easy and also promote cooking at home, because you know what, we do too much outside.
Katie just found an Asian market near our apartment.
Ooh.
And the stuff that, like, she ordered a bunch of stuff and it was like, I think $10 less than just getting Asian food, Chinese food, sushi, whatever. Yeah. And we're like, oh shit, we're doing like Asian market for the win.
100%. Just just the availability of produce and stuff. You're like, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
You find more than enough stuff. You find some unique stuff. And also, like, I'll be honest with you. So one of the things that I tried in Mexico was a Mexican hot chocolate, which has got like different spices and stuff to it. It's quite delicious. I found that at the Asian market, and I'm like, they have a whole Mexico section, which I'm like, that is ridiculous, but also delicious. So, yeah.
Asian markets for the win. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.